Whitworth. My name is Emily. I am your Campus Activities Coordinator and also the Chair of the SEC. So welcome to tonight's Executive Azure Debates. I'm super excited you guys are tuning in to watch our lovely candidates. Just answer some questions that you guys had. So first we're going to start with the Financial Director candidates and then move on to Vice President and then President. So I will start asking the questions. On your left, I think left is Colby and right is Abby Douglas. So, okay. What is your most notable Whitworth experience and how has that shaped you?
Yeah, so my most notable Whitworth experience is probably with Business Club because I kind of got involved with that right when I got to Whitworth because I wanted to meet new people, get involved, and just learn about the Whitworth community. And that's been able to shape me because I've kind of moved up the ranks and grown as a leader and communicator and problem solver through that. And I'm actually serving as Business Club President currently. And just taking on that position has helped me grow a ton because it's given me that leadership experience and it's kind of let me see Azure from the other end, the club's end of things and the students' end of things. And it's been able to help me find things that I think can improve within Azure.
Thank you guys for bearing with us. I'm just trying to be COVID safe.
I would have to say my greatest experience at Whitworth would be the Women in Finance Club. I joined this past year and it has really grown my technical financial skills. We work with coding, we work with Excel. So I'm really prepared. I understand cash flows, I understand accounts, I understand budgets, and I feel like I can be a trusted advisor when it comes to budgeting and that end of things. Additionally, the Women in Finance Club has really provided me with leadership opportunities such as presenting and teaching peers.
Awesome, thank you guys. Okay, next up, how will you uphold Whitworth's mission through the role as Azure's Financial Director?
Sorry.
Yeah, Abby can start.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, yeah, of course. How will you uphold Whitworth's mission through the role as Azure's Financial Director?
Yeah, education of the mind part is really important to me. I actually am majoring in accounting and minoring in theology. I really believe in practical, well-rounded knowledge. I believe that not only being a good person, but being educated, both of those aspects are really important to serve with leadership and being there for others.
We have Jeopardy music playing in between. It takes so long.
Yeah, for me, I plan on serving Whitworth's mission through my leadership and providing someone that students can come to and learn about how the financial director position works and how they can access our funding that Azure provides to them. And I plan on just making it a lot more accessible and easier for students to understand in this coming year, because I think it's really important that all students on Whitworth's campus are included in everything. And I think that starts with their access to the budget within this position.
Awesome, thank you guys. What previous financial experiences make you a viable candidate for financial director?
Yeah, so for me, I've grown up in the car industry, which is one of the most financial-based industries because every single deal that you work in the car industry, you have to go through finance. You have to create a budget for the person. You have to help them plan out their next however many years on those payments. And I've grown up in that industry and kind of learned just the basis of finance through that. And no, I'm not a finance major, but I have grown up in an industry that requires more finance than most other industries. And even with that, just a few months ago, I helped a new car dealership get up and running, and we had to redo their budgetary plan for the next few years and basically redo everything, payroll, everything. And so even though I'm not a finance major, I have tons of experience in the finance industry.
In terms of financial experience, mine really started in high school. I was the student store accountant for our student store. And then I actually worked for the Seattle Mariners for 3 years where I worked in event planning and I got to look at a lot of budgets. I communicated with clients a lot. and negotiated contracts, and so I have a lot of experience with pricing and cost. Moving on to more college, I started working in the golf industry where I was a pro shop assistant. I got to look at the bookkeeping and really help assist with that. And then moving on to more in later college, diving into my major, accounting major, I take a lot of advanced finance classes, advanced accounting classes. I have an internship lined up this summer at a big accounting firm, Moss Adams, here in Spokane. And like I mentioned previously, my experience in the Women in Finance Club and starting the process of founding an accounting club, I am very experienced and have a depth of knowledge in the accounting and finance industries.
Awesome, thank you. Next question, what is your current opinion of how AWSU's finances are handled and how might that impact students?
Yeah, talking to peers, I feel like there's always a ton of confusion, as Colby was mentioning earlier. People in the student body just hear big numbers for checks, like $1,000 was spent here, things were happening here, and there's always a ton of confusion behind that. And I feel like I was also in that boat. And so I think that's something that I could bring to this position is a proactive transparency. I think that on the AWSU website or Instagram or some type of means that way, that is a way that this role can be transformed, and the shift in opinion about AWSU's budgeting and the way that finances are handled can be further improved.
And yeah, kind of similar to what she was saying. I really think that it's just really helping the students understand how to access our budget. And when you're not a person who has a major finance background, it can be really hard to understand how the budgets work, how the requisitions work, how all of that works. And I think that's something that you need to focus on as financial director, is you need to make sure that it's easier for students to access that. You need to make sure that you help them understand that process, and if anyone comes to you, you have to help them. And even if they don't come to you, but you see that they're struggling, you have to reach out to them and show them that you care and that you want to help them access these fundings, because they are for the students. That's what they're for. And if they aren't being used by the students, then there's no point in having them in the first place.
Thank you. Next question, what ideas do you guys have to make students more aware of AWSU funding opportunities?
Yeah, so actually for this one, I have a lot of ideas. First and foremost is just word of mouth. You really have to be out in the community. You have to be communicating to people, going to prime times and making students aware of this. Just kind of explaining it to them, explaining how they access it, what they can do with it, what they can use it on. Showing them the forms, walking them through our HFS website, through everything, just helping them explain that. And then also, I think it's important to have a social media presence and make sure we use our AWSU social media account to make sure students are aware of this too, and every once in a while doing a post reminding them that this funding is there for them, this budget is there for them, and they are able to take money from it whenever they want to.
Website, or I should have an Instagram or something of that nature that has a breakdown and explains the budget. Do budgets roll over? Do they run out? How do I advocate for my club? And options like that. I do believe that there should be a page on the AWSU website that clearly explains and is accessible to all types of financial knowledge levels.
Awesome, thank you. That is all the questions that I have for you guys. So that was Colby and Abby Douglas. Next up, we have the vice president candidates. And yeah, if you want to sanitize the seats real quick. Otherwise, it's better for the mic. So next up, we have vice president candidates Chris, Victoria, and Momina. Yeah, you can go ahead and start. So first question, same as last time. What is your most notable Whitworth experience and how has that shaped you?
I think every day in Whitworth is a new experience for me. But being the president of Fight Club and working as a CDA, or most importantly, working with the Agriculture Student Center was the biggest experience for me because it helped me learn about my identity as a person, as a woman, as a person of color, or somebody who matters in this community or in the world. And I think just interacting with people from different backgrounds, people from different cultures, people from different genders, from different sexualities, from people who don't speak the same language, I got to learn so much from them that it made me who I am today. And that experience, I think, really makes my leadership more, I think, I forget the word, but more polished and more inclusive for other people.
Yeah, so just sanitize it first.
Okay, sorry. Hi all. My most notable experience at Whitworth has definitely been being Whitflex representative while online. I had to step outside an entire comfort zone I didn't even know I had to create an entire environment that didn't exist before I even became the representative. I took hold of an entire community that wasn't really there, and I shaped it to what it is now. And it's one of my proudest moments, and it's one of the hardest things that I've definitely done at Whitworth. And to do it during a pandemic while I'm not even in Spokane was so incredibly memorable that I'm so proud of everyone that's been doing Flex. And I can just probably say that it's just so incredibly meaningful to me.
For me, I believe that my most proudest moment at Whitworth has been being able to be a part of the study abroad program that takes us to Central America. I say this is because not only did I get to work within indigenous communities that not only are marginalized but are sort of underserved. I'd say that being able to not only serve being an intern in Costa Rica, but being able to explore and find faith in moments of difficulty, because out there I experienced a lot of difficulty just for my own spiritual journey, for the racial tensions that were upon me at the time, and for the continuing pandemic that we're experiencing now. Having to experience all that in one moment was definitely difficult, but it was a privilege to be able to not only serve, but to explore and to improve my own person. So I see that that's one of my greatest experiences.
Awesome, thank you guys. What does student representation mean to you?
I think student representation is meeting people where they're at, not just trying to solely provide resources, but guiding them through those resources. I think as a student who's tried to receive support from faculty, from administration and stuff like that, we've fallen short of being able to provide unique students the proper resources that they need in order to be a successful student. So I think student representation falls along the lines of, if there's a direct resource that we can provide that will enhance their abilities or something along those lines, then we provide whatever we could to support them and to represent them properly.
I think Chris had a really great answer, and I would agree that meeting people where they are rather than finding ways. But for me, as a woman, a person of color, international student, representation is a very, very important thing, because I think it is the most empowering thing for me, because if you have somebody from your community being represented, somebody who has your values being represented in the executive body, or anywhere in the world, you feel more connected to them. You feel like there's a safe space around you. You feel like you're wanted in that community. So I think for me, student representation here in AWSU or in Whitworth community as a whole is just being there for people when needed, or even not even when needed, but just being there for them whenever they need it.
Student representation means to me being an extreme advocate, going over the top, trying to fight for students who probably just aren't being heard. They're speaking, but we just can't hear them. For Flex students, a lot of the time, they just don't know where to go. And so they have me as a resource. So just having AWSU be an over-the-top resource for these students and having extreme advocation and transparency is a great way for them to be transparency, sorry.
Awesome, thank you. How will you uphold Whitworth's mission through your role as AWSU's Vice President?
Mind and Heart is something that I took to heart when I became the Flex Rep. I really wanted to uphold Whitworth's values through what I was trying to do. I took a bunch of constituents and I asked what they needed from me, and a lot of the time they just needed a friendly ear, and a lot of the time they just wanted to complain, and I was like, I'm here. Like, just tell me what you need, and I will be here. And to be mindful of the situation, to be mindful of COVID and the pandemic is something that I can't leave out of my job description. I have to put that before I put the fact that there's students at Whitworth, I have to put the fact that there's students going through a pandemic first.
I think as the EVP, I want to serve the humanity, to serve my community as well as I can, by being as unbiased as I can, by being as inclusive as I can, by working as much for the other people I can, with my mind and with soul on my heart, because I know what it feels like to be on the other side of the stage, or to be outside AWSU, or how I wanted like my leaders to work for me. Keeping those things in mind, I think that maybe as an EVP, I can serve my community better.
As EVP, I would love to uphold the interconnectedness of the mission statement of Whitworth, especially in regards to the education of the mind and heart and serving humanity. Serving humanity not only means to meet people where they're at, but it means to radicalize those environments in order to purely serve them, be genuine about your intentions. I feel like it's one thing to be pressured into doing something, but I feel like if there's no genuine intention behind it, it's sort of just like a robotic response, and that takes away a lot of the emphasis of the need to want to serve these communities. I would also look to educate people's mind and hearts, because you're not really learning if your heart's not in it. It's not something that you're passionate about. I feel like that would take away from the work that we're trying to do. We want to prosper and create change while we're students, but we also want to serve the greater community. So as EVP, I would love to create policies, programs, or something of that sort to be able to intentionally and genuinely change the communities that we serve.
Awesome, thank you. How will you use this position to better serve the underrepresented populations at Whitworth?
Yeah, as I was saying previously, I look to create programs, policies, or something of that nature, because I think as EVP and just as a person in a position of power in AWSU, I look to be in adamant solidarity with underserved populations. I feel like with the previous question asked about why we want to be the EVP, or in what ways we look to change Whitworth through the message or the statement, I think that it's important to feel respected and wanted on campus. So if we have programs and policies that reflect such things, then we want more students to be here. We want more diverse and inclusive environments, and that will hopefully encourage students to go out and engage with as we move forward, or just the community at large.
Since I've entered Whitworth, I've been committed to working for people who are underrepresented or misrepresented, because I'm one of them as well. I am from a minority on campus. I'm an international student. I'm a woman. I'm a person of color. So I understand that, and as an EVP, I do have some ideas about it. And if I am selected, I'm willing to work with the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion program, work closely with the global representative, work closely with the intercultural service center, so that we can bridge the gap. Right now, our minority groups, our misrepresented groups are so isolated in their own bubble, and then we have the local community that's like far off. I want to be the bridge that connects both of them, so that we can be the voice for them, we can make them heard. And another thing I was thinking is that I want to have the intercultural competence training for the ASBO team, so that we have the team bonding as well as having a similar cultural awareness, because that's the main part. And then I know EVP deals with the senators, the zone reps, on and off campus. I want to do the trainings for them, so that not only we can have similar cultural awareness within our ASBO team, but we can also have it with the constituents of the senators on the whole community. And I feel like because ASBO provides a larger platform, it's like we have so much opportunity to carry on with these programs.
Hi there. I would use the EVP position to set a high standard of what should be seen. The EVP is the head of the role for advocacy. They advocate for everybody in and out of Whitworth, on and off campus. They should set such a high standard that people look at Whitworth and say, wow, they could be doing more, but what could they do? EVP should set equality of standards for minority groups, and it should create a language and an open communication forum that senators and representatives can go to and look and have the space to talk about certain topics and create spaces to talk about certain topics.
Awesome. Okay, last question. How do you intend to aid in rebuilding the Whitworth community once COVID restrictions are lifted?
Part of my job at Flex as a Whitworth student is to talk about what it's going to look like on campus when we all open up. A lot of my job is creating communities that will still be there, that will still be on campus and off campus, even if we all return, when we all return. My job as EVP is to continue to promote Flex students to come back to campus and to give us spaces, and to give Flex students spaces that they feel that Whitworth is home. That it's home.
I think we all can agree, even when the school opens up, normal is not going to be normal. It's probably going to be a new normal. So I'm looking at it as a new slate, like a blank slate for whatever we do is going to be a normal for us. As an EVP, definitely working with the senators and the zone reps to see how we can be more inclusive and how we can work in bringing everybody together after being separated for such a long time. Probably carry out surveys I really liked the Flex program, whatever you were doing with it, probably carrying that on as well. And then just create service to try to see what people are expecting us to do, what people want us to do. Because at the end of the day, we're here for them, and we need to do what would make them feel more welcome than Whitworth.
Yeah, I really like the two answers that they gave. I think, and echo similar sentiments of Molina, I think it's going to be pretty important to send out surveys to see what our constituency is expecting of us as AWSU. Additionally, I think one way in which I want to create or enhance our normal would be to work directly with the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, because we see that COVID has disproportionately affected different populations, and with that, it's important to intentionally dive into those communities and find ways to best support those, whether it's economically, whether it's being in hospitals, whether it's incarceration because you messed up, and now we have different things on the record based on COVID. Just being being of a family who's been disproportionately affected by COVID, I think it's pretty pivotal to provide them direct support. Additionally, it's providing programs and different events to help students feel more included as they transition back onto campus, whether it's from home or whether you're coming back in you're a returning student. I think it's just trying to amplify those voices and amplify the settings in which we give people the space to be vulnerable and express their feelings and the experiences that they endured as the pandemic has continued.
Awesome, thank you guys. So those were your vice president candidates, Chris, Momina, and Victoria. Next up. Next up, we have your presidential candidates. So these are your candidates, Hannah, Rachel, and Ibu. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, what is your most notable Whitworth experience and how has that shaped you?
My most notable experience is a tricky one to choose from. It would be easy to say that it was serving as EVP this past year, but I would have to go with living in Baldwin Jenkins for 2 years was my most notable experience. I lived there as a freshman. It was actually my 6th pick for the housing pick, and my mom was so excited because she went to BJ, like she lived there. It was great, and she was like, Hannah, you gotta get in BJ, you're gonna love it. And I was like, no, it's too noisy, they're loud, they're annoying, I don't want that. And I got there, and I fit right in, and I found the best group of friends. It was my 3rd friend group that was the one that stuck, but I'm living with those friends now, and then I got to live there again. And part of me was expecting it to be the same, which was a mistake. Baldwin Jenkins is never the same. It's always different, year after year. And it is my most notable experience because of that, because I learned that traditions at Whitworth, they change every year. They are what you make it, and you get what you put in anything at Whitworth. So yeah, that's my most notable experience.
My most notable experience while being a student here at Whitworth University, I would have to say would be last year serving as a CMC, a campus ministry coordinator in Duval Hall. That was a really intriguing experience because you're put in a situation where you are a student who's the same age really as everyone else, and you say, okay, you're supposed to be like a spiritual leader shepherd, have fun. And for me, that was a really great growing experience, and the biggest takeaway that I had was I learned how to walk with people. And as group president, that is what I want to do. I want to walk with campus. I want to walk with constituents because we're all in this together. I am a student just the same as all of you. I am not older, not necessarily much more wiser. We are all in this together, and so learning how to walk as a CMC really informed my experience today.
you hear me? I have two masks on, so it's a little hard. I would honestly say I've had so many great experiences at Whitworth. Honestly, from better to worse, it's all made me a better human. I would definitely say that every day is a new great experience for me, just because I'm from nowhere near Spokane, Washington. I was born and raised in New York City, which is a much more different place than Spokane, Washington. So it could have been easy for me to hate this place. Instead, I love it for the beauties and the struggles that have made me, like I said, who I am today. I have a very intersectional existence as a student. I'm a student athlete leader. Of course, I'm a student. I run cross country and track. And then I'm a part of AWSU. I do a lot of work studies, so I kind of had a side of working and understanding what it's like to have a sort of financial struggle you need to work and kind of provide for yourself in order to come to school. So it's just the new things every day that shape my experience. And I think that when I look back at my life in a year or two after I graduated out of college, I'll say that every day was kind of something new and a blessing to just admire.
Awesome, thank you. What is your intended impact you'd like to make on Whitworth University through the position of AWSU's president?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
What is your intended impact you'd like to make on Whitworth University through the position of AWSU's president?
My intended impact would honestly be to touch the hearts of everybody and to listen to everybody. To, as Rachel said, walking with people, it's really important to be intentional with the people we serve. And it really just comes all down to serving everybody from whatever needs it is for our community, to listening, to talking and sharing what I need to share. My constituents, my constituents, it all is all inclusive. It's an inclusive mindset to bring everything together and build bridge everything together. Because COVID happened and COVID has kind of shifted everything. We've had seniors last year who haven't experienced what senior year should have been for them. We have freshmen who came in this year and haven't experienced what freshman year would have been like for me or most of us in here. And we have seniors now this year who might not be fully getting what they need. So I don't want to go back to normal, I want to be better.
This coming year is a unique one. I think of the word crossroads, which is kind of a Whitworth word from 2010, coming back in as we see Beck Taylor, our president, leaving for another institution in the beginning of a presidential search. Also, as we've been talking about, it's going to be a year where COVID's kind of a thing, but not really, and this idea of a new normal. And in that time of new year, and just different experiences, my intended impact is to, I'm trying to find the best word, bear with me, is to remember who Whitworth is. I think it's going to be a year of recreating our identity to an extent, but also I believe it's a year where we all as students get to remember who we are as we kind of step out of the winter of COVID into the spring of this new season, but also it's a year of growth. And so my intended impact would be to walk alongside students as we experience this new identity as an institution and the growth that comes with that.
I became interested in the position of president while serving as the current executive vice president. And I became interested because of one thing. I was frustrated by the executive vice president position and the limitations it has. As VP, you are essentially managing student representation at Whitworth. You are in charge of the representatives. You help them figure out how to do their jobs and do them well. And issues of representation are what you deal with from the students. However, I looked at Whitworth and I was disappointed by the administration and how they interacted with students. In several issues across campus, they did not choose to include students in these decision-making processes, or did not choose to bring them to the table and invite them into the room where these things were happening, which is a mistake. It's important to respect student opinion, and so that's what originally got me interested in the position of president. That was something I could not do in the position of vice president. but one that I would hope to do in the position of president. Additionally, I would like to add that my platform for president is to reunite, refocus, and rebuild the Whitworth community. I specifically chose verbs that describe what I hope our community to be next year, not adjectives describing myself, because I want our community to be great. I want it to reunite, to get back together, to figure out who we are again, to refocus, to figure out what we want ourselves to be, and to rebuild everything that Whitworth means, and to continue from that momentum moving beyond this year. As Rachel mentioned, we're looking for a new president of Whitworth, and that's a huge responsibility. As we also just amended the Constitution and the bylaws, we have a new position, an outreach coordinator, that is hoping to extend to students who are underrepresented through our organization. And there's so much opportunity. Yeah, I could go on for hours about this. If you're interested, please check out my Instagram page for more.
Thank you. Next question. How do you plan on actively engaging and promoting diversity and equity on campus?
I've been putting a lot of thought into this as a white female. I'm in the majority group of Whitworth students. There is, I would say, over half of the student population are Caucasian females. I also grew up in the Spokane area, which is a pretty conservative area who don't do a necessarily good job educating their children about diversity issues. And so I'm still learning. And this year especially, I've been learning the value of engaging in uncomfortable conversations where I do not feel comfortable. And that's okay, as long as I'm making sure that I'm still like a physically safe space. I'm not threatened or anything like that. But I can be uncomfortable in those conversations and learn to walk through that. I think the next step for Whitworth University is to really engage in the idea of what allyship means, and how majority groups can begin to engage in these conversations and be good friends to our oppressed friends who are misserved by society constantly. And even at Whitworth it happens, which I feel like a lot of the majority groups don't realize completely. So yeah, that's how I would engage with that conversation.
Thank you, Hannah. As I think about engaging with diversity and equity on campus next year, I think of two words. I think of listen, actually three words, listen and reach out. I also, like Hannah, am a white female, and I come from a middle-class family. And my time at Whitworth has been so influential because of the stories of people I've had the opportunity to listen to. And one thing I've learned with that is listening means truly listening. It doesn't mean waiting for me to have the next response. It doesn't mean for me to justify my experience. It means getting to know other people. And as president, I would hope to do that. Being able to listen to the stories of people around me, I feel like will impact me by seeing the heart of campus and all. My idea for Reach Out is one that I've been thinking about a lot. Whitworth is a small campus, but we're located in a college town. Spokane is bigger than Whitworth, in case you haven't heard. And one of my ideas is I really believe that we're all stronger together. And as president, I would really, I'm dreaming about reaching out to other universities in the area. So I'm thinking of Gonzaga, Washington State University, Eastern Washington University, possibly Whitman. I know you might be thinking, our rivals, what are you doing, Rachel? But I believe that partnering with their leadership teams, even if it's informal get-togethers over lunch, and talking about ideas, what's going on your campus, what's going on our campus, and pulling from those different resources will benefit us tremendously, as they're also doing the good work of diversity and equity and inclusion. And I really truly believe that there's resources out there, and by pulling together these other smart and intelligent brains, we'll be able to work towards a more inclusive community here at Whitworth.
I feel like I can say a lot about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So as you see, I'm a black man. My entire experience at Whitworth has been Nothing. I came in through the multicultural visiting program, so I got to see a good glimpse of Whitworth from that perspective. And then as I came here and I made my decisions about coming here, it all kind of unfolded, and I've been able to see two sides of Whitworth. And some things have been beautiful, some things have not been so beautiful. There's a lot I can really say, and the biggest thing that I've realized, it definitely is being equitable and inclusive. Definitely diversity comes with the different people from different backgrounds and different places. I'm from New York City, so somebody from Pullman or from Spokane, that can be diverse to me, or I'm diverse to them. So diversity is a very big pool of things, but then it comes down to connecting everybody through inclusion and equitability when we meet people where they're at. Yes, we can be friends, but it's about becoming a family, something a little greater. I've had experience actually with other universities as well. I've gone to a couple of different conferences out of the state. It's different diversity conferences, and I've heard different campuses talk about their experiences and what they do. It's been a great experience. I have a little background in that, from having background to just background being an intersectional identity here. As I mentioned before, I'm a student athlete leader, so I identify with a lot of things in a more diverse pool, but then I see how there's students of color, there's students over here, and we're all kind of just in our own pools, and it needs to come down to solidarity, definitely coming down to listening to each other, and appreciating, well, not appreciating, actually celebrating each other. And that's where we'll break the barrier of kind of being in the friend zone and then becoming a new family.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, this position entails a sort of bridging the gap between students and administration. How do you plan to follow through with this expectation?
Can you say that one more time?
Absolutely. This position entails a sort of bridging the gap between students and administration. How do you plan to follow through with this expectation?
I think it comes down to being consistent with administration. They may see us just as students, and we are students, but we're at a high position of power. And I don't want to think of it as just power. We represent, we advocate for all the students. So it's being consistent and showing that, hey, we are here for who we serve, and this is what we want to do, and we want to correspond with different voices around campus of students. So we just make sure that everyone's being heard, and from everyone being heard, then we can act, and we can think. But before we act, we need to think. We can't just kind of go at our own pace as leaders, thinking that we have all the power because we serve everybody.
During my time at Whitworth, I've had one really unique experience, and that's being part of the Student Ambassador Program. For the past 2 years, I have served as, in many ways, a liaison between students and administration, and people who give gifts to the university, to guest speakers, and this position has let me build relationships with university leadership. For example, the other day I was in the hub, and our provost, Gregor Fesswaldner, was in there, and I got to just say hi, because I know Gregor, and it was really chill. And for example, I also really have had the ability to connect with Beck and Julie Taylor during my time here. It all started back in freshman year. They invited me into their home as part of a life group, so I sat on their couch, which was really fun. And I've gotten to know them further through the Student Ambassador Program, having dinners at their house, playing with their dog a lot. And so it's these kind of meaningful, really interpersonal relationships that I think will equip me to be a fantastic bridge between students and university members, university leadership. I, as president, intend to pursue those relationships even more. And that means taking out university leaders to coffee. They're people too, you guys. And to be able to build those relationships, hear about their kids, hear about their hopes and dreams for the university, and where they like to go on walks in Spokane. I think that will help me be better equipped to when those hard conversations come up and I really want to advocate for my community. I already had that foundational relationship set up with them, and so we're able to work as teammates and not as someone who is in a higher position than me. We're all in the same playing field.
As president, I would serve as a bridge between the administration and students with so much intentionality. That's my biggest thing with communication, is being intentional. I learned that as in my first representative job as senator in BJ, how important it is to be that gap between AWSU and the students. The president is the head of AWSU, which means you get to meet with all these administration, and you actually get to find out things beforehand or be in on decisions that aren't public knowledge and physically or like officially cannot be shared with the students at large. That is a huge deal, and I think intentionality is what would make a difference in that situation, because as soon as possible, the students would know from me. And I would be representing diverse voices to the administration with intentionality as well. I know my limits as an individual, I know my limits in my identity, and I'm well aware that I can amplify voices through a position such as president.
Awesome. Okay, last question. What is the biggest issue you see on Whitworth's campus, and what are your plans to address it?
I think I already went over this a bit, but the biggest issue I see is that the administration oftentimes chooses to not respect student opinion or voice. This was seen in the credit overload lowering of last spring. This was seen in some of the COVID changes over the summer. The list goes on. For example, in the credit overload changes, the people in charge of that change made the decision to listen to student voice from 2014 instead of current student voice. No one who gave opinions in 2014 were still students at the time or had any effects from the voices that, or from the things that they said and the feedback they gave to the plan. My goal would be to somehow make it so that administration and faculty were required to include at least one student in any committee or meeting that they are legally able to attend. There are some things that they cannot be legally involved in, including Title IX or other issues that are going on campus. However, it is important to include student opinion, and we're not just here for 4 years. We're going to become alumni at some point, and they're going to come to us looking for funds to keep the work going, and it's going to matter what the university thought of us when we were students. So yeah, that's how I would address that.
As I think about some of the big issues and problems on Whitworth's campus, I can't help but thinking about underlying foundational issues. And so I'm not going to talk about specific, really concrete things. It's a little bit more abstract, but I truly believe, and this goes for across the world, I believe that miscommunication when hearing other people's stories is the root of so much conflict and strife. At Whitworth, and as the president, I would look to find ways to tell stories meaningfully that creates shared experiences and creates true understanding. And this isn't easy work, and this isn't work that's going to happen overnight, and likely it wouldn't happen during my presidency completely. However, I would implement this in ways, for example, every Azure meeting, we have it in here Wednesday nights, just a little plug. We have this awesome thing called the Student Highlight, which highlights a student in the past week who's been working on something. And I think that incorporating a student story to come alongside that student highlight would be incredible, because it would give a face to the university, a face to some of the problems that we're experiencing, and allow us to empathize. Empathy is one of the most powerful tools that we have as humans. And so by understanding stories, we'll be able to grow in community with each other, and we'll be able to join together and tackle bigger problems on our campus. Problems about racism, problems about environmental issues. You can name the list, it goes on and on. But those intentional storytelling behaviors that would help you be able to become more of a practice would be something that I would work to implement as president.
The issues here at Whitworth, I feel like it's World War II in a sense. Hold on. It feels like there's battles on different fronts. There's so many different issues here. Like Hannah said, like Rachel said, there's so many different issues on different fronts. And war is a drastic word, but that's how it feels like for someone like me because of my intersectional identity, where I have to face racism and may have to face the issues that might trickle down from administration. I may have to face so many different things. It feels like so many different things are coming at me. And I know that there's so many different students that feel that same way, that there's so many different things coming at this institution that's coming at them, hitting them left to right, and they're getting knocked down. But they get back up, and I get back up, and that's kind of how the fight goes. And it comes down to, like Rachel mentioned before, listening and sharing meaningful stories, but kind of listening to the stories more, listening to everybody. And, you know, we're just humans. All three of us are just humans. We can't, the changes that we want to see and do are very, very, very incredible and rational. And that's something we want genuinely. Something I want, and I don't want to be intentional. It definitely comes down to listening and being there for people. Because that's what this position is for, to serve everybody. If, you know, we don't have that heart and drive to serve everybody, then we can't fight those wars on different fronts. And the best way I feel like to fight those wars on different fronts is definitely listening to people. Because maybe if we can turn one side into our allies, that war wouldn't be here. And then maybe we can see the common and work together in the true issues that we can get done. And there are just so many issues that I could name a laundry list of, but we'd be here all day. And people know that I talk too much already. So, I mean, yeah, if you want to vote for me, you might hear me talk a lot, but I have a nice voice. But I digress. But that's the main point, of just being intentional and connecting with others, because that's how a lot of wars have been won, is connecting, not allies. And then when you get to that point where you win and you get to the success that you want, it's distributing that success, that enrichment. It's like conquering the land with other people and how you divvy out that land. I think back to the Roman Empire. They had a triumvirate. I don't remember. I didn't feel history class, but I just remember a lot. And history kind of repeats itself. But I would like to repeat history. I would make new better history. That's the best word I can put. I know that's a mouthful. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. So these are your presidential candidates, Hannah, Rachel, and Ibu. So that is all that we have for our debates. Make sure to vote this Friday from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. on the AWSU website. We'll have posters up, and we'll have a voting booth outside of the hub from 12 to 4. So if you want to come by, say hi, and vote for who you want to represent.